Hello again, my name is Avkash, and in this unscripted engineering video, we are going to learn how to utilize the Visual Studio Code for developing whether it's a front end or the back end application and combining it with GitHub on your machine so that you can back up all of your work effectively and be a really versatile and a very productive software engineer. So let's get ourselves started.
In this video, we have seen various ways to manage your GitHub repo through command line. In this video, we are going to integrate this whole thing with the Visual Studio Code. Visual Studio Code is something which you could use for writing code, no matter whether you are using any front-end language such as React, and there are various front-end frameworks, JavaScripting, or you can use for backend like the Python, Java. Various people really use Visual Studio Code for front-end, backend, and scripting all of their work. I use a little different. So for backend, I'm very used to PyCharm. So I use PyCharm, but front-end I use mostly React. For the React coding, I use Visual Studio Code. So Visual Code, let's download it. I'm using Mac, so I'm gonna be using the Mac version. Windows, okay. And here, hold on, I think I make it just okay. So I will for the Intel chips, okay, and I will use the zip for Intel chip. Yep, done. Let's run it. We are installing. Okay, let's move this to applications. Now run the code app. Okay, and what we will do is that we are going to use these Visual Studio Code various instances on a different desktop. So as you see here that I have 3 desktops, so I will be using these 3 environments. So this is one I have. Choose theme. Okay, whatever we have is less. Okay, just use this one. Support for all languages. Yeah, it's okay. I just use the dark high contrast. Okay, and let's close it because it has a separation of line everything. So this is one Visual Studio Code. I can go back to desktop 2 and I can come here and I can say let's use the Visual Studio Code, another window, new window. That's a second, and I can also come here third and I can say let's use the Visual Studio Code, new window, and I'm using the 3 different environment. Then I can actually I don't really need anything. I can connect with a different environment. So I can come here and I can use this. So I'm currently in desktop 3. I can go to work and I have the private coding. So I can say cd private coding, and all the work I will be doing in the desktop 3 will be private coding, and in the desktop 2 I will be using the public coding. So I can say cd work public coding, and here is our public coding, and we will connect this thing. So here I can say open. We are using my machine work, and rather than this I actually use the list environment. So I can say in this machine what we have decided is that we're gonna use public coding. So let's use the public coding, open, and it's just a trust. Okay, let's use this. Yes, I trust the author. Here is okay, and as you could see here that if I click here is will understand that okay, there is a get access or so as soon as Visual Studio Code started, what it did is actually look into here LA, it looked into the .git, and if you look into what is inside the .git folder, there are various configuration related information. If you look into the cat config, here you can see that okay, this is the key has used in order to push the code everything. So it knows configuration. So Visual Studio has read it and automatically figure it out. Oh, these are the requirement. in order to connect with this particular repo, I can add the third line. When I save it, very soon you will see that, okay, the Visual Studio Code source control system figure it out that I have made some change. I can commit it. I can actually say, okay, open git log. It will say, okay, we have done, commit it. Okay, we don't really use it. Oh, it's asking us to config. Okay, git log. I can write a message. I can say added, third line, commit. Okay, so at this point, when I'm trying to commit, it's really asking me to add a little more configuration. So we can come here and we can say git configure, config. Here is the git config, and we can add our username and email. So add new variable, and here we can see that we need to add the, okay, so variable name show origin. So git system config. So okay, let me just look into what we really needed here. That's true. Okay, git config, username. Okay, setting your username. So we have git config global is gonna set username. Okay, let's use this git config, and that's where the transparency is helping us. Globally set everywhere. Okay, and global, and then we are saying user.name. Okay, so now we have set this one. Let's come back to here. What is really asking? User.email. Okay, let's use the user.email. Okay, so we have set it up. Now you can look into the git config, and I think we need to know how to see the information. Git config, let's validate these two information. So git config, name, email. Okay, so that's all really added. Let's go back, close this window. So we are closing that particular window. Let's open the Visual Studio Code again. Okay, so we were in second window. Let's come back here, open a new window. Okay, it should open the same or public coding, so you can actually escape. You can see it public coding. Let's come back. Okay, it read everything. Now let's come back here, third line, commit. Okay, now commit has been done. Like sync it. Okay, you know, push pull everything. Yeah, go ahead, and changes are being critical return git fetch. Okay, ask me later. Okay, now if we come back to our screen and let's go back to git, our repos settings. Here we were in public, third line is added, and that's what we have added here. There you go. So what you learn in this session, we downloaded the Visual Studio Code. We use Visual Studio Code to actually edit one of our public repo. As soon as we connected the public repo or we opened the public repo with Visual Studio Code, the git configuration was automatically read, and then after, as we were making changes, all the changes can be pushed very effectively. And if you make changes on the server, we just really need to pull those changes as well. So if I come back here and I can say, let me go to, because our git is open in this one, so I can come here and I can add a fourth line here, save. I can say commit. I have done that thing on server. Now I need to come back here, and Visual Studio, you might think that how I can pull this code. Okay, so here is the command prompt where here is our terminal, and as you could see here that it knows that I'm in main, and the Visual Studio terminal automatically knows that the Z shell is connected. So whether I'm using here or I'm using here, terminal is available for me. So I can say git status. It really tells me my local is okay, but if I want to do git fetch, it's really pulling the latest code. And if we look into here, the fourth line is there. So remember, it was asking us that, oh, do we need to run the git fetch? I want to make it more I would say controlled by me. So whenever I need to pull it 3 times 5 times in a day, I can really pull it, so I know what has been pulled, what the changes has been done in these other places for my repo, so I have better control on it. So that's the reason I use. And as you could see here, I could have done here too when I was in public coding. I could say here, or I could say git pull here too, which would have done same thing. But with Visual Studio, you can actually have access to terminal debug control. If the language you are using has ability to debug your code, like if you are using Python, you can do debug. Here is the output coming out from command, okay, anything else, and here is everything related with source control. Here is your file view where you could write it. So this one, what we have done for public coding. If I want to do for private coding, it's pretty much ditto, because whether you have the public or private repo, the way you are going to write the code is pretty much same Visual Studio. The only difference is that if you have a key, if you have access to upload or push the code, you could be able to do it. Otherwise, if your access doesn't have it, you don't have access permission to push the code, you will not able to do it. Let me come back. Desktop number 3. You see that here is my Visual Studio code. I can say open file or folder. I can come here, okay, open folder. I can say in the work, connect with private coding. Okay, really don't need to turn setting. That's something you could do later. Extension, like I have access to Copilot, GitHub Copilot, and I could really connect, but I have that in my professional machine, but I would have to connect with this repo as well. So here is new line. I can say added another line, and I could save it. As soon as I save it, this control knows that, oh, some changes are coming. I'll say added new line, commit it, yes, and now sync changes. Okay, now it's not asking me to create the user.email or the user. Name, because I have set that those things are globally. So the way we have done is that we use the command window here, and in this place we have actually set it up our user.name and user.email. So they are globally set for anywhere in this machine where we are going to use the git. That information is added there. So if you are asking, or if you are wondering where that global git configuration is they store in the user location. So what you could do, this is your pwd. So what you can say is that let's create a new tab. So we are not changing where we were there, opening a new tab. I can come here and I can say ls-la. It's in my working folder. So this is my root or the user folder, and here you could see that I have the information which are related with git config. So if I say cat dot git config, and you see here, this is the place where the information. So everything in my home folder where my user folder is. After that, wherever the git repos are being cloned and everything used, this is the configuration being pushed wherever it's applicable. For that reason, when we were working on repo in desktop 3 or the repo in desktop 2, I was really fairly could use my git control wherever I am. So what you have learned is that how you could work on various projects simultaneously on different desktop with different access level and with the different control. You can work all the work here, you can keep changing, and it doesn't really bother because you can the way you are doing is that everything is done very differently. Now you see that my video is available because my video is actually located for the desktop number 1. I don't know how to make this thing same video work everywhere, because if I use a different control where my video feed is coming from different source and then I can really embed them together and create a video, I would have done it, but I really don't have that much time. So my plan is to just keep everything as it is. So Visual Studio Code you have used. There are few tips I can give you with Visual Studio. So for example, if you want to make this font bigger, there is a settings available. You can go and you can actually change the settings, and in the settings you have you can text editor. Here you could see the font. Right now I'm using this one. You can actually say that use the 14 font, which will be a little bigger. Okay, and you see the font has been changed. Just as a change, if you say 20, you come back here, you need to come, font has been bigger, but I think the 14 is really good. We change here. Now this is the 14 font, which is good for okay. And if you'd want to change the formatting, there are formatting controls available. If you want to use the extensions for, so here is the extension where okay, if you would want to check the extensions, so here are the extensions. You can use the prettier, which is used for code formatting. As you could see here, 49 million download for this extension, very popular. You can install that extension, that is available. If you want to make the JSON pretty, you could do it. I use prettier because that's for my JavaScript code, and the tab as well. So that okay, let's come back to here. And if you are writing a JavaScript code, for example, so let's come back here, and if we add a new JavaScript file, for example, let's come back here, that's your JavaScript. And if you would want to use the tab control and everything, you can actually come here, right click, and there is a, like, if you want to format document, and there are right clicks. Okay, so let me see, format document. Okay, default formatter, you can configure it, and which formatter you really want to use. I can say I want to use the prettier all the time, so that would be my formatter. Okay, and if you would want to change the, but remember this is a JS file, but we are actually using the HTML, so there should be the HTML. That's a better way to do it. That's my bad. So HTML is better. Yeah, that's why there is no error. Previously there was a coding errors, and this is the JavaScript. You can actually tab it out. So you see here the tabs are four. Those dots are showing there are 4. Okay, let me see. Okay, settings, and again depending on which particular extension you have to set, so there is, you can spend days spending over just making whatever you would want to look and feel and act depending on your need. I'm gonna call this thing extension. We have already installed it, so extension is active for us. You see, install means it's active. Right now we can close it. That's our HTML file. If we have a JavaScript and we want to use the format, that form, and we can always the format document, and you can say okay, use the print here, and that's is being, so tabs are being added for your document. I think that's just a very quick example for you that how you could use the extensions for your need. Okay, so let's summarize. In this session we have downloaded the Visual Studio Code and then integrated it with our various GitHub repos in different desktop environment, so that we could effectively work on multiple projects while we are we are going back and forth, working some here, and then we also saw that how we could really use the terminal, the command line within the Visual Studio Code, while we could also use outside. We also learned that the Z shell, which we have learned in one of these sessions previously, is also intact in the Visual Studio Code. That helps us to be more effective while we are working as an engineer.
So I hope that after watching this video, you are a better and more productive software engineer. Thanks for your time and keep enjoying watching this video. Thank you.